In 1 Corinthians chapter 10, it tells us this, that if we think we are standing firm, be careful so that we don't fall. Well, what are some of those things in our recovery journey that we need to be careful of so that we don't fall back into our old patterns?
Recovery can be hard, but it's worth it. There is hope knowing we can find healing one step at a time with Jesus and healthy community. Whether you're struggling with a hurt or a hang-up or a habit, you're not alone. During this podcast, we share real stories, practical tools, and powerful truths that inspire you to keep moving forward. No matter where you are on your journey, there's hope ahead. So stick with us as we walk this path together through Celebrate Recovery.
Well, hey, Forever family, welcome back to Hope in Recovery, a Fellowship Celebrate Recovery podcast where we talk life change stories and have recovery conversations to help keep us moving a little bit further down our road of healing and hope as we connect with God and others on this journey that we call recovery. Let me introduce myself. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus. I struggle with food issues, depression, sexual addiction, and grief. And my name's Andy. And I've got the great privilege of being a part of this Celebrate Recovery staff team here at Fellowship Bible Church of Northwest Arkansas. And I'm grateful that you're here with us today. I love that we get to have these conversations. And as always, if you're getting something out of it, drop us a like or a review or a rating or share it or any of those types of things. They help get the word out about what we do here at Celebrate Recovery so that we can keep growing and invite more people on this journey with us. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about what does it look like for us to be careful so that we don't slip back into some of our old patterns. And I was having a conversation a little bit earlier this week with a group of friends, and there was this idea that came up that there are some pretty common reasons why, in the conversation, it was reasons why great men or great women fall. And I felt like it was such an applicable conversation when it comes to our recovery journey, because there are certain things that are common trends that we can look out for over the course of our lives that can signal, or rather set us up to make poor decisions that might challenge or set us back in our recovery. And the three things that they talked about were these three things: busyness, fatigue, and lack of devotional. Busyness, fatigue, and lack of devotional. And as I thought through those three areas, I thought, man, I think it'd be good for us just to have a conversation around what those three things look like in the course of our recovery, and what might it look like for us to course correct a little bit if we see those things popping up in our lives. And so the first one is busyness. I think it was Dallas Willard that said once that if the devil can't make you bad, he'll make you busy. Thinking about the parable of the soils that Jesus tells in the Gospels, where he talks about that some of the seed that was scattered on the soil was choked out by the worries and cares of life. One of the things that can happen over the course of our lives and over the course of our recovery journeys is that we can have a lot of things pile up in our lives, and we can quickly find ourselves stretched beyond our healthy limits. I remember there was a season in my life, and periodically it kind of goes back to this, where I find myself kind of trying to maintain the current rhythm of life. Right now at this season, I've got a 5-year-old daughter and a 4-year-old son. My daughter actually just started her kindergarten jump start week, and she's getting ready to go into kindergarten this fall, which is super fun, but also it's a new season shift for us. And as we get ready to head into the fall, here at Celebrate Recovery, and we've got step study launches, there's things that pop up. A new school year brings new opportunities, but also new commitments. And so sometimes we don't do a good job navigating all of those commitments. And before we know, we're stretched thin. I remember Rodney telling me this once, and well, he's told me this several times, but if you can imagine our lives like a tabletop, there's only so much space on the top of that table. And if you can imagine us putting, tennis balls on top of that table, every tennis ball is a commitment in our life. And some of those tennis balls, if we put too much on the table, they're going to fall off. Now, some of those commitments are things that are, it's less risk if they fall off. They truly are a tennis ball made of rubber, and it's easy to bounce back up, and okay, we can find another spot for it. But then there's some things in our life that are tennis balls made of glass, and that if it falls off the table, it has deeper consequences. And sometimes what we can do in our recovery is we can fill our life so filled with things, sometimes filled with really good things, that before we know it, things that should be priorities are falling off. And our life starts to become a little bit choked out. In my recovery, what does that look like? Well, that means that maybe I stop prioritizing because I'm so busy with other things. I stop prioritizing meeting with my sponsor as often as I should. I stop prioritizing going to meetings and open share on Friday night. I stop prioritizing doing my daily time with Jesus because I've got so many other things in here. And sometimes we can overextend ourselves with even serving. And what does it look like for us to make sure that we maintain healthy rhythms in there? We can get so busy with the cares of life that we neglect the things that are most important. And so in your recovery, as you're listening to this right now, do you feel busy? What are the main things going on in your life that are taking up your mental energy, your emotional energy, your relational energy? And is there a time, we talk about this in the spiritual inventory lesson, but is there time in your life right now to maybe pause and see what the priorities are? And rather than letting life happen to us, could we happen to life? Because if we don't own our pace will own us. And so, are we slipping into busyness? The other one, which is really important, is fatigue. Am I tired? Am I fatigued? Am I exhausted? It's important to understand, hey, am I extending myself so much that I'm putting myself in a place of a deficit? Am I exhausting myself? Fatigue happens when we don't prioritize rest. And so are we actually prioritizing the rest that refreshes us? And I want to talk a little bit more distinguishing different types of rest when we come back from our break.
Hey friends! A lot of people find the process of starting recovery scary because they aren't sure how to begin or what to expect. The easiest way to get started is simply to get started. Just take that next right step and go to a CR meeting. Every Friday night, we have our Celebrate Recovery meetings at Fellowship Fayetteville and Fellowship Rogers. At 6 p.m., we have a great meal for connection with other recovery brothers and sisters. Then we meet for large group at 7 p.m., followed by open share groups at 8. Same schedule on both campuses, different teachers, different worship teams, but the same great experience. We'd love for you to join us this Friday night. It's never too late to start or start over again. For more information, go to fellowshipcr.org.
All right, we're back talking about a couple things to watch out for that might crop up in our lives. We talked about busyness and am I filling my capacity way too much? But the other one is fatigue. Am I pushing past my own physical limits? Am I walking around? Do I just feel like I'm tired all the time? Am I putting up good boundaries in my life? And am I prioritizing the rest that actually refreshes? And this was a really important thing that, it's hard for me to remember at times, but it's so important that there's rest that is refreshing and there's rest that isn't. And knowing and being able to know, hey, what things are actually going to replenish my soul. And I had a mentor of mine years ago tell me that there's two categories of rest. There's active rest and passive rest. Passive rest is really, really helpful, but this is rest where I'm not doing a whole lot of things. This is rest where I am just sitting on the couch and I'm watching Netflix, and I'm allowing myself not to lean into anything too physically active, and I need a second just to sit and not do anything. And that type of rest is actually pretty beneficial. But I don't know if you've ever tried to sit on the couch all day on Saturday and binge Lord of the Rings. I mean, I love Lord of the Rings. Maybe you don't, but I do. But sitting and watching TV for 12 hours straight on a day typically doesn't tend to be the thing that really fills my soul. At some point, it exhausts me more than anything else. And so rest that refreshes, it involves, at least for me, passive rest, but also active rest. And active rest is maybe those things that I go and do that are refreshing for me. This was probably about 2 years ago. I was taking some vacation time, and part of that vacation time was me getting out into the woods and going hiking. And I grew up in Missouri, so this probably makes sense, but I grew up going squirrel hunting with my dad. And I set some time just to go out and go squirrel hunting. And it was amazing to me how refreshing it was for my soul to get out of the car in the middle of the woods and to just go walking in the woods. For my soul, one active rest thing that really helps me connect with God and feel refreshed by Him is getting out into His creation. Now, there may be, for some of you, it's, I want to go and enjoy a really good cup of coffee. Or I want to sit down with a really good friend and have a great conversation. I want to have a board game night with some friends. I want to sit around a fire and just watch a campfire. I want to go camping. I want to go to the beach. What are those things for you that refresh you? And maybe it's not, planning a trip to Florida and sitting on the beach for a week. But what is the thing that you can do now here that will be refreshing to you? And here's another thing in it is, rest won't happen unless rest is prioritized. We live in such a culture nowadays where we are so connected and we have so many obligations that sometimes it's really hard to unplug. I think I counted one time on my phone, there's like 11 different ways that people can contact me directly, which is wild. Are we allowing ourselves space to disconnect? And then are we putting it on our calendar? The things that are important for us are the things that we planned for. And is rest important? And here's the reason why this is so important. we don't make good decisions when we're tired. If you remember the story of Jacob and Esau, one of the things that happened in that story in the book of Genesis is that Jacob deceived Esau and stole his birthright. And it's interesting when you think about how he did it. Esau came in from the field. He had been hunting. He was starving and he was exhausted. And Jacob said, I'll give you something to eat, but you got to give me your birthright. And he was so exhausted. He's like, I don't care. Just give me something to eat. He was exhausted and he made a terrible decision. And I don't know about you, but so much of the time in my recovery, when I'm tired, my judgment is flawed. But when I'm rested, I can think a little bit clearer. And thinking clearly is so important for us making the next right choice. And so if you're exhausted, if you feel yourself being tired, what's the next time that you can actually rest? And if you have a hard time planning rest, maybe you bring some people around you in that to help you stay accountable to that. Now, the last area, I think this is one where we saved the best for last. Lack of devotional. And so what do we mean by that? It means that we are falling off in the time that we are taking to stay connected to the Father, our one and only true source of grace and strength and power to actually walk this journey. When I refuse, or not refuse, but when I don't prioritize my time with Jesus, I feel it in my soul. You know, it's interesting what it says in Psalm 1. This is the first 3 verses of the first chapter of the book of Psalms. It said, "Blessed is the one who does not walk with the wicked, or stand in the way of sinners, or take in the company of mockers." That's a really cool reminder that the company that we keep helps to form our character. But it goes on to say this: "Blessed is the one whose delight is in the law of the Lord, and meditates on his law day and night." And what is the law of the Lord? It's his word to us. It's the totality of our Bible, God's word. It goes on to say that person is like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in season, and whose leaf does not wither. Whatever they do prospers. See, there's this promise that, and this is just one of many places in Scripture, where it tells us when we come to Jesus, when we connect with God's Word and seek to fill ourselves up today, there is a promise that God's going to provide for us what we need to make it through today. I love what it says in Psalm 1. That person is like a tree planted by streams of water. It's like a tree that is next to a river never lacks the water it needs for life. But it goes on to say it's going to yield its fruit in season, and its leaf isn't going to wither. There's a promise of provision. And then it says whatever they do prospers. And we're not talking about financial prosperity, but prosperity of life. It's the abundant life that Jesus promises you and I when he said, "I came to give life and give life to the full." Staying connected with Jesus helps us keep God's voice in the forefront, which helps to keep the lies at bay. It fills our mind with things that focuses us on Jesus rather than any alternative that we would shove in our mind and our brain. And it connects us to our source of life today. And so in your recovery, how are you doing in this? What does your time daily or weekly with Jesus look like? And are you prioritizing that? You know, Jesus says, "Come to me, all of you who are weary and heavy laden, and I'll give you rest." Could that really be the case, that when we come to him to get filled up and to rest in him, he gives us the rest we need so that we can step into what he's calling us to do? In Matthew 6, it reminds me, seek first all these things, or seek first God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. That if we put God first in our life, he provides for what we need today. And so, in your recovery, what has your time with Jesus looked like? And if you're feeling like you're in a rough place, give this a shot. In the next week, commit 5 days to spending just 10 to 15 minutes in the Word before you start your day or at the end of your day, and see how that changes your mindset and your attitude. I bet it'll have a giant impact. But, you know, there's a lot more that we could probably say on this topic of just things that we need to watch out for. But I think these 3 things are good. If we could focus on these 3 things, I think we would find our recovery in a good place. Are we watching out for busyness, fatigue, and lack of devotional? Well, as we've been talking, you know, there may be some of us that are watching this or listening to this that maybe you are in a little bit of a rough place. Maybe it has been a bit of a struggle. Maybe you feel like you haven't been watching out well for what's going on in your life and in your recovery. And I just want to say, if that's you, hey, you're in the right spot. I'm glad you're here. And, you know, the only place that we can start is where we're at. And the cool thing is that our recovery is not dependent upon how well or how poorly we behave. Our recovery is formed by us coming to Jesus and finding our strength in him today. And it's defined by the work that Jesus did for you and I on the cross, through which he actually gave us the ability to come into deeper relationship with him. And so, whatever you're carrying, you can bring that to the Lord today. And you can find that, as the Bible promises us, his mercies made new every morning. And if you're looking for a group of people to keep you encouraged, to keep you walking well in your recovery, if you're looking for community on this journey, we would love to have you join us any Friday night at Fellowship Rogers or Fellowship Fayetteville at 7 o'clock. We have our Celebrate Recovery service. We'd love to see you there. We'd love to walk with you and be with you as we all try to walk together towards freedom in Jesus every week. Well, Forever Family, thank you so much for listening this week. We love you. We'll catch you next time.